So I wanted to welcome everyone to our meeting this evening, Committee of Whole meeting for June 24th, 2024. And I'm going to call the meeting to order and to start with the acknowledgement of treaties of peace and friendship. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq peoples. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which Wolastoqiyik, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1726. The treaties did not deal with surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized the Mi'kmaq and Wolastoqiyik title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. Thank you. Walalan. Next is the oath of office. We do hereby accept the office of council and will diligently, faithfully, and impartially discharge to the best of our ability the duties of the office as may be imposed upon us by law. Next is the adoption of the agenda. Do we have any changes? If not, can I get a second? Can I get a motion?
M 2024-06-24-51 that the agenda be adopted as presented.
Can I get a seconder?
I'll second it.
On the motion, on the question, all those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passed. If there are any statements of conflict of interest, please acknowledge with the clerk. Next, presentations, petitions, and delegations. We start with 4.01, which is a presentation by Lori Hickey.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council, CAO Lee. I want to speak this evening in questioning the validity of a, I guess, loosely termed petition that circulated through the village. And first and foremost, to Municipalities Act, for a petition to be even considered, there's a few basic things it needs. One is, who was the witness to the signatures? Did the council ever ask when that was presented who the witness was? Will the council look in the future to see who the witness was? Several people have come forward stating that the presentation was misleading. Right off the bat, it is misleading because it talks about noise pollution. It's summer noise, if it is noise. Because motorcycles make noise. We had 100 of them pass the other day. I found it a nice sound. I appreciate those sounds. Fishing boats at 4 in the morning. I don't mind that sound. It's people going to work. Some people, I suppose, working 4 to 12 or 12 to 8 might have difficulty sleeping, but I find that little bit of noise, like anything else when you make progress, there is certain little things that go along with it. Misleading to the point where we talk about rocks and gravel and dirt all over the road. Terrible, terrible stuff. The New Brunswick Regulation 8525 Security of Loads is strictly enforced and governed by the province of New Brunswick and the Highway Patrol, as well as the Mounties. The vehicles being too big and all this, there's no little gravel trucks like Alden Smear used to ride in the past. These are rock trucks. These fall under the Department of Motor Vehicle Dimensions and Mass Regulation 2001-67. Service New Brunswick Trucking and Transport Industry cover the tarps, the side issues, anything else that was imagined with this, terrible thing. Walking on the sidewalks, all 6 or 7 people, I suppose. Anyway, several signatures appear to be the same hand in a household, thus requiring a forensic inspection. I assume we still have somebody that's working with Crime Stoppers on council. Do we still?
Yes, we do.
Okay, that fellow must be aware of forgery and false signatures, no witnesses. One person who came forward who said her name was not on the list, or was on the list, but signed by another party. This again bears investigation. Not a small thing there, it's not a schoolyard newspaper. The petition speaks clearly against the signed agreement between landowners and expropriators. That's the village of Baldoon. Dealing from the heart can prove very expensive to the village of Baldoon. And I'm sure with your experience as a Crime Stopper, Ron, Mr. Councillor Burke, you would know that law supersedes heartfelt conditions. Those things will land you in trouble. The law outweighs sentiment. The council members take an oath to perform diligently and within the confines of the law, not the heart. Fraud, perjury, and forgery must be considered and investigated by a third party, the RCMP. For the dust and shit and corruption that I guess our clairvoyant, the maker of the petition, is concerned with, is all covered in a caveat when I sold Robert Murphy and Sons piece of land on what was my land before it was expropriated by the village. This was under the Land Titles Act, and this for him to have that right away. These are the things, and pay attention there, everybody from Lower Baldoon that's concerned. The sky may fall. The transferee, his heirs, assigns, or holds the dominant property shall be fully responsible for all construction, maintenance, and repair to the right-of-way, including, but not limited, to all bridges and culverts. No vehicle shall utilize engine compression, jake brakes, to reduce the speed of such vehicle when traveling on the right-of-way. The transferee, its heirs and assigns, shall take necessary steps, including but not limited to the use of calcium to reduce and eliminate dust as much as possible when utilizing the right-of-way. The transferee, its heirs and assigns, shall conduct adequate across culverts along right-of-way, providing access to the property retained by the transferee. That's me. So any culvert, but I have none over there, which is a nice thing. Somebody else has 3 and tried for another one. Any right-of-way, repair, or construction, increasing the width of the travel portion of said right-of-way to a maximum of, and then the stamp's on that so I can't see, but it goes northwesterly side of said right-of-way. That would be on the land that somebody's heart forgets that used to belong to me and was taken out from under me due to rumors, stories, and fairy tales. But it was popular. Now the land is marked. You know where it is. I didn't put a house too close to my land. Somebody else did. You fellas took my land to please somebody for some unknown reason to make it a public road. These are all locked and sealed items. They're signed by lawyers. I think maybe your lawyer should come up and have a meeting. And for those that are crying foul, explain to them that the law supersedes the heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Any, okay. Council, does council have, any members of council have anything to add? Fine, thank you. We'll move on to the next one. So the next presenter is Teresa Daly.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My first thing I want to say is I'm the one that went around with the petition, and I can guarantee you, they all signed willingly. He probably knows half of them. He can call. Anyway, this is my presentation. As a Beldoon property owner and concerned citizen that will be affected by the proposed quarry and transportation of related material, we would like to oppose the approval of any of Main Street and Smear Road West transport material from the quarry. Thus far, the Village of Beldoon has not satisfied our concerns regarding the environment, community damage that will occur due to the use of the roads and the aforementioned purposes. There are many concerns that need to be addressed, and we oppose to the project for the following reasons: noise and pollution, trucks, and basic quarry operations, possibly 24 hours, air pollution, fine dust particles, etc., impact in the wildlife, marshland area has already been filled in, and what kind of surveys was done, were there any endangered species impact, Lower Beldoon values due to the residents being on the doorstep of industrial traffic, destructions of the roads which are already a struggle to repair, safety of the community residents who use roads as pedestrians, cyclists, etc., lack of evidence that proper permissions were sought by the company prior to making alterations to the landscape, environmental testing, surveys, etc., domestic agriculture, animal impact. There's a hobby farm next to the proposed land road, access to water, increased pollution, dust and noise will have negative impact on the business and their animals. Debris left behind by the trucks, who's going to be responsible for keeping the roads? The onus is on the individual who bought the property to request a permit prior to purchasing the property and to discuss to use it for industrial purposes. The residents of Beldoon should not be punished or inconvenienced because of the business owner poor planning. Environmental studies, etc., should have all been done prior to a quarry being approved. And there should have been a transparent consultation progress with the community in place before this stage. They don't ask permission, they ask forgiveness. Ideology does not apply to major industrial businesses. The owner of the quarry fails to do diligence to make sure he had permission to create the quarry. The inconvenience should be his and his alone. The citizens of Beldoon who do not benefit financially or otherwise for this business should not be required to pay any tax dollars towards supporting either the roadways or the damage caused by the quarry and transportation of material. If you permit this business owner to make decisions that are not aligned with the proper channels, then you are suggesting that everyone can do whatever they want. No matter the impact on the environment, the community, or its residents. Forcing the residents to accommodate this request to bring industries into the front yards sends a clear message that the business can break the law and the community is responsible for paying the price. We propose that all industrial activities be contained in the industrial zone Toujours Road. The fact that this may be inconvenient to the owner of the quarry is irrelevant. He should have avoided this inconvenience by going through proper channels in the first place. This is the price we should pay for not following proper procedure. And it should be his price to pay, not the community residents. Only he benefits from this business. The onus is on him. We trust that this council will persuade to postpone their decision on the project until further public input can be heard. Remember, we elected you because we trusted you to look after our best interests, the best interests of an already exhausted industrial community and its environment, wildlife. We would like to keep informed of any decisions of public decisions regarding this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Any members of council wish to respond in any way? Any members of council wish to respond?
I would. Just a couple of things. Just a few things in your presentation. First, I'm going to say this mess has been inherited by this council. It's not one that we've created. This project was approved in 2017. Mr. Murphy did follow all of the laws and regulations to establish a rock quarry on Smear Road West. The permits are all here. He's got a license to operate, an approval to operate. He has the water alteration permits. He didn't break any laws. The permits are sort of process-led. So I think the public needs to be aware that no laws have been broken in terms of establishing the rock quarry. There's information about the number of trucks, the number of, there's a whole lot of information that council doesn't have, that as far as the contractor is claiming, there is no contract in place, so we can't say how many trucks there are. We're talking about noise, debris, number of vehicles. We don't have any of that information. I can tell you that the proper process has been followed. Since 2017, he's had an operation permit, and we were made aware of that when we came in.
Why wasn't it public?
Well, but
Just
that's a great question, and it's one that I have asked. So I got permits yesterday because I called Mr. Murphy and said, I want to see the permits before the meeting tonight. So,
Okay.
so I think
Just, okay, just.
it's not backdoor. It's,
Counselor,
there's presentations
Counselor,
coming
Counselor,
in. I
Counselor.
have asked for
Counselor.
these documents to be
Counselor
presented to
Robinson, I'm gonna
No,
ask-
I'm not finished speaking.
I'm going to ask you one more time.
For what reason?
Because I'm informing the gallery. Questions are for question period. So I'm going to ask you politely to wait for question period, and then you'll all be allowed to ask your questions. I guarantee you'll be given time. So now you can continue.
As I was saying, I have asked for the permits. Because your presentation was being made tonight and the accusation was that there are no permits in place, I called the contractor and asked for them. He was contacted Thursday and asked if he would present to council, and he agreed to do that. But we wouldn't have the information for tonight.
Why isn't he here?
You would have to ask him that question. I don't know. That's not for me to answer. But yeah, I know what you're saying. No, I know what you're saying, but it's not for me to answer for him. I just wanted to know if the permits were in place, and I can tell you, Teresa, that they were.
Okay, okay,
So
does any other council?
It has been legitimately.
Does any other council member
licensed.
have anything to add?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So our third presentation is from Leanne Smear.
My name is Leanne Smear, and I have been a lifetime resident of Lower Beldoon. I am the third generation of my family to live at 12 Smear Road West since my grandfather built the home in the 1940s. I have lived there for the last 20 years. Despite always having lived in the vicinity of the industrial park, life in Lower Beldoon has always been quiet and peaceful. This quality of life is exactly why the residents and newcomers love to live here. That is, all those except for a few who are intent on destroying this peaceful quality of life for the sake of personal profit at the expense of the rest of the residents, roads, and environment.
One second, Miss Leanne, sorry to interrupt. Can we please have quiet from the gallery? Okay, can we please show some respect to the presenter and allow her to present? Continue.
There is a proposed gravel pit and rock quarry development that is planning to transport material out of Smear Road West and along Main Street to the industrial park on a daily basis throughout our short summer months for years to come. This will be the end of our quiet, peaceful quality of life we have always enjoyed. This is exactly why there are several entries in the rural plan to keep industrial activity within the industrial zone so that constant industrial activities do not continually disrupt residents' peaceful quality of life in their homes. This trucking will not only ruin our quality of life, but destroy our roads, create hazardous driving and walking conditions along Main Street, and Smear Road West, place adverse impacts on the environment, and create noise and dust pollution along the transportation route for all residents. To add insult to injury, tax dollars are being spent to facilitate this development. Over $8,000 has been contributed to NB Power to relocate a pole in order to ditch and widen Smear Road West to accommodate industrial trucking. Not to mention the thousands spent on the expropriation of a portion of Smear Road West in order to regain clear title and control of a road the village already owned but neglected to register. Now the village intends to develop it into a trucking access road despite numerous objections from the residents, despite the fact this would be in violation of the bylaws as well as the general spirit of the rural plan to keep industrial activities within the industrial zone and away from residential living, and despite the fact it will have no benefit to the community, only negative impacts. Furthermore, this ditching and road development will cause severe destruction at the front of my property, including the loss of an 80-year-old oak tree planted by my grandfather, my driveway, and half of my front lawn. For the village to accommodate industrialized trucking on a regular long-term basis within meters of a person's home is unacceptable and should not be forced upon any resident. This ditching will also have a devastating impact on the environment as it will intentionally drain wetlands. Since 2018, I have had several meetings with CAO Lee, Ferguson, Kingston, and Lee again concerning this development and the negative impacts it will have on myself and the residents of Lower Beldoon. I was repeatedly assured by each one of them that my concerns would be addressed once the expropriation process was finalized and the village regained clear title and control over the road. However, instead of addressing my concerns, it appears as though the village is endorsing this development. When I was finally allowed to meet with council for the first time in 6 years, it was quite distressing to me how the majority of council members seemed completely unaware of any of my objections or the fact this road is in such close proximity to my house to begin with. At this point, I realized my objections were not being heard, and I decided to start a petition. My petition cites one of the village's own bylaws, Section 4114B, stating that no access road to the excavation site shall be located less than 60 meters from an existing dwelling or institutional use. Although the Shallora Regional Service Commission would like to interpret this bylaw in the developer's favor, there is nothing in the rural plan to back up their interpretation. No specific definition of what constitutes an access road. No explanation of the bylaw only pertaining to public or private roads. Just simply that it shall not be within 60 meters of an existing dwelling. My home currently sits about 6 meters from the road, and the planned ditching to widen the road for industrial trucking will bring it to within 2 to 3 meters. My petition was eagerly signed by the vast majority of Lower Beldoon residents, as they do not want to see industrialized trucking taking over Main Street either. Just as the residents in the upper end of the village objected to industrial trucking through their residential area, and the council did everything they could to resolve their concerns, I am here today asking for the same treatment for the residents of the lower end of the village. I delivered this petition with 60 signatures from the residents in Lower Beldoon alone on May 21st, 2024. Unfortunately, the village has still not responded. As the community continues to raise awareness and objections, one of my neighbors, Teresa Daly, has tirelessly continued with the petition up to Armstrong Brook and including Mitchell, where she gained more than another 150 signatures in support of our efforts to stop long-term industrial trucking within our residential areas. A copy of these additional pages was delivered to the clerk on June 18th, 2024 for your review. Council cannot blatantly ignore the objections of all the residents of Lower Beldoon and beyond. Since NB Power and Roy Consultants have been on site to place project markers, there have been numerous issues that have come to light showing a clear lack of proper planning for this project. NB Power had to change pole relocation markers 4 times. The engineer felt it would be prudent for him to request a meeting with council to make sure they were understanding the possible ramifications this project could cause in the future, especially concerning the deterioration of the road, and the unforeseen need for an environmental permit before any work could take place, just to name a few issues. All these details should have been properly assessed and dealt with prior to signing any work contract. Given these obvious oversights and improper project planning, we are asking council to call for a review of this development and rescind any decisions that have been made to allow this project to move forward. Council needs to consider how this development will have nothing but negative impacts on all the residents, the roads, and the environment in Lower Beldoon for years to come. Council should be representing the best interests of all the residents, not just favoring one developer. We, as concerned residents of Beldoon, have elected you to represent our best interests, and we feel we're entitled to know when there are new industrial developments being established in our community that will most assuredly have negative impacts on all of us for years to come. Personally, I feel when a road is being developed in such extreme proximity to my home to accommodate long-term industrial trucking, my best interest should be taken into consideration, as I do not believe any of you would appreciate being in my situation. There are already 19 gravel pits and 3 rock quarries in the village, and unless council starts to restrict this type of activity to the industrial zone, the next one could be transporting materials within a couple meters of your homes. Thank you.
Before I turn it over to council, for any council members who wish to make a comment or ask questions, I would ask from the gallery, if you have a comment or you have a question, to wait until question period. It's just, it makes things more organized, and but no one's going to be denied an opportunity to speak later. I promise you that. So if you could just hold on to that. I'll turn it over to council. If council has anything they wish to respond or add to that presentation. Okay, if not,
Sorry.
oh, go ahead.
I do feel really bad for you. I can see the stakes in your yard, and it looks very unpleasant. But I want to state, how can I say this? The village is not taking your front yard. Smear Road West has a specific boundary. So the upgrades to the road, regardless of trucking, we have, and again, it's a file that is 10, 12 years old that we've inherited that has gone on and on and on. The expropriation has gone to council 4 times and has been dropped. It's like one council after another seems to pick up a project and then ignore it and hope that it goes away. And the expropriation of Smear Road West has been one that has cost the taxpayers in this village tens of thousands of dollars just in legal fees and continues to. As far as the legal right-of-way goes, that's what the village is taking over. We're not taking over your front yard or your driveway or whatever, and I don't want people to think that we're stealing land from you and Mr. Hickey saying we're stealing land from him. The village is not in the business of stealing people's property. This request was made from outside of council to take control of Smear Road West, and that's what the village is trying to do at this point. So most of this is coming from legal advice from our lawyers and has gone on way longer than it needed to be, and it's a fight between individuals that should never have been before council in the first place. So I think it's a project that we've kind of gotten thrown into and are stuck with trying to resolve, but I don't want people to think that we're taking your front yard. We're not. That's the legal right-of-way of the road. That's just how it is. It happens in all communities when there's development, and whether it's for gravel trucks or not. We don't even know if the quarry is going to go forward. He's had the permit since 2017, and there's been no movement except for now he's developing part of the road. Like they're 2 separate issues, the gravel trucks and the right-of-way, and I want to make sure that they remain 2 separate issues. Do you know what I'm saying?
Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on to Councilor Carmichael.
What I have sounds a little small than what everybody else here. We don't want to take sides. Honestly, we don't. We just want to do what's best. So with that, I'm going to just give you a little summary that the SPCA that we have here in Dalhousie, and that they have an annual public meeting, and that we are invited to go there. Anybody's entitled to go. They have a Facebook page, so if anybody's interested to know what's going on there or when the meetings are, you can always add that to your Facebook. As you know, there's a bookstore, and the money doesn't come from provincial. They get no money provincially. They pretty much run the SPCA with volunteers, fundraisers, donations and so on. And, you know, we want to keep it there because I think it's important that we have that. It's because of the animals, and they're open. Their hours are 9 to 4, except on Monday. They get, like I said, no money from the provincial, the money from fundraiser, June lottery, donations. They have 3 full-time employees. This is just a short report that I just want to throw it out that the people is aware. There will be, and they also said that if we wanted them to come into council, that someone would come and make a presentation to council, and so that's all I have on that. Thank you very much.
Council, anyone have anything to add?
If I may, Your Worship.
Yes.
The Village of Beldoon contributes to the SPCA, I believe it's $10,000 a year. 9 or 10,000, I'm not quite sure exactly of the figure, but it's 9 or 10,000. So with that said, when you look at what we're getting for our value, I've had several instances myself where people have complained about the service of, the stray cat, a dog, whatever it might be, to call the SPCA. No action whatsoever. So for me personally, I have no issues in saying that we would be better off to hire somebody locally who would deal with those issues and suspend our financing of the SPCA. It comes down to that, I'm not questioning about the work they do, but I am questioning about the service they supply to Beldoon for the money we pay. I believe that, it's just not worth what we're paying. It's the neglect, and that's the right word. Neglect on their part is far too expensive on our part. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I'll discuss this further when budget time comes up. But I'm making it publicly known where I stand.
Thank you for those comments, Ron, or Councilor Burke. I just feel that before any decisions are made, that we should speak to the SPCA and have them come in and discuss and have a discussion with us. And then perhaps we'll understand more where the funding and so on and the money that they get and the services they give. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, that being the case, then we will move to adjourn. We have nothing else. So can I get mover to adjourn?
That the council meeting is adjourned at 6:34.
Can I get a seconder?
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passed, meeting adjourned.